Hello everybody, welcome back to my series on Node-RED and Cisco's Identity Services Engine. In this video, we're going to take the API integration a little bit further and actually get the list of active hosts rather than just the number of active sessions. We're going to get that list of active hosts. We want to see the username, the password, or the username, the MAC address, and the IP address of the client that has an active session in ISE. You'll notice this fourth flow is very similar to the last three, or the former three. The only thing that really changed in the request setup function, I changed the path to the API. The request, the XML, that all remains the same. The format has changed. The format function has changed, and I'll talk about that, as well as the output has changed to be a template, to be able to then output this data in a graphically easy to consume way. So let's start with the graphic user interface object. We're going to open that up. I am going to show you a little bit of HTML. I have some HTML here that is going to format this data. You see we're using a table row, or table rows, and table headings. This will be the format in which we output the data: username, MAC address, and IP address. These will be the headers to our columns. I could probably use the full word here. Then the table body, and this part is where some of the magic happens. This functionality will actually loop through the results, the payload that's output, and print this in a table form. So it doesn't matter if we have one entry or 15 entries, it's going to still get printed out graphically pleasing using HTML. So row in message.payload, so it's going to get the row, right? We're in the table body, we're going to get a table row from the array, if you will, the array that's in the message.payload object. And then the table division inside of this, each item in the row is going to be an item from within that array, which is inside the payload object. So the best way to understand this really is to not talk about it anymore, but instead go to the format function and look at the code. Here you can see I make two variables, AR for array and ARR for another array, essentially. Really, technically, I guess they might be objects. I'm no programmer, so you can correct me, my syntax or my vernacular below if you'd like. The message.payload.activeList and active session is going to be enumerated there. We're going to instantiate this blank array, or this empty array, and then we're going to loop through the first object, or the first array that we have, and for each item in there we're going to make a new object. We're going to grab the one that has the index of 0 the first time through the loop, and the key of username, the index of 0, the calling station ID. This is known as the MAC address to most of us. The index of 0, the framed IP address, again the IP address, and then we're going to push that into the ARR array that we have declared here. We're going to do that for each line of or each entry in this field. So again, if there is 1, we do it once. If there's 10, we do it 10 times. Ultimately, when we're the whole way through that, we give the payload the value of that object, and away we go. To better understand this, let's click Done. Let's turn on debugging, which is already on here. I'm going to turn off debugging on these others just to limit the noise. We want to deploy that. And as we did in the prior video, we'll come over here, we'll press the button to start the flow. You'll notice the API path has changed. Admin API monitor session active list. In the last one we used active count, so that's actually very important. We'll open up this array. We'll open each object in the array. We had 2 objects. You can see username. Username is actually a MAC address. My system is using MAC address authentication bypass. If you're using an Active Directory username, that username would appear here. Calling station ID, this is the MAC address of the client using MAC auth bypass. If they are not the same, something's wrong. And then, of course, the second item. And again, I just have 2 hosts in my lab here, but you probably have more in yours. So with that being said, let's step over to the graphic side of this interface and take a look at what it looks like. As you can see, we have our active session, count here, which there are still 2 active sessions, and we have the table view of the information that was sent across. The username, i.e. the MAC address in MAC auth bypass, the MAC address, and the IP address. If you have questions on this code or how this works, again, feel free to comment below. Hopefully this has been helpful, and ultimately we hope you can do some more interesting and useful things with Identity Services Engine and Node-RED. As always, be sure to click that subscribe button, check back often, join the discussions and so forth, and let us know what we can do to improve this content. We'll see you in our next video.